Thank you for joining us at Miniature Wargaming Labs. In part 2 of our series, Learn to Play Planet 28, we will cover the game mechanics. So for the game mechanics, that'll be the skills and characteristics of your characters in their warband, the turn sequence of the game, the actions your characters can carry out during a turn, and the all-important skill roll to determine if your actions succeed. In games of Planet 28, you're going to have a group of models. This is going to be your warband. Now, each model in that warband moves separately in its own individual being. So each one of those models has 3 skills and 2 characteristics. The skills are fighting. This will determine how well your character handles himself in hand-to-hand combat. Shooting is indicative of how well your character does in range combat. And agility, this is how well your character navigates obstacles and also determines what order the models will go in during the turn. Now the characteristics, speed, this is how many centimeters your model can move given a single action during the turn. And then hit points, this is much like role-playing games. This tells you how much damage your character can take before being removed from the game. Now I should note that to customize and individualize your characters in the back of the book, you can give your characters unique traits, abilities, and equipment to modify the aforementioned skills and characteristics. In games of Planet 28, the game session is divided into turns. Now the turns are randomly determined. Before you start, you'll roll a 10-sided die and add 6 to the result. So you can end up with anywhere from 7 to 16 turns. Now after you roll for the number of turns, you will then deploy your forces. There's a table in the back of the book that will tell you how to deploy the forces. It's a random table generator. And once that's done, the forces are deployed, you can start beginning your turn sequences. Now the way to determine what model goes first is to look at each warband's agility scores. The model with the highest agility score gets to go first, and it works its way down to the lowest agility score. Now in case of a tie, the 2 opposing players will roll a d10, and the player that gets the highest roll will get to decide which model activates first. Now once all the models in the warband have activated, then the turn ends. Now during each turn, every model gets to execute 2 actions. You use these actions to achieve the various goals within the scenario. Now all the characters can choose the same set of actions, and you can perform the actions in any order you want, or you can perform the same action twice if you want. Now the actions are move, charge, fight, and shoot. There's also ability, which if your character has a special ability that has been assigned to them, they get to use it. There's also item. This is your ability to switch between weapon systems or other objects that your miniature has. And then there's hold. In other games we call this overwatch. You get to save your action for some later time to interrupt another model. Now if you don't use that hold action, like you save it up, you lose it at the end of the turn. The skill roll is the most important roll in the game of Planet 28. This is the main way to determine if a character succeeds at executing an action such as shoot or jumping over a wall, something like that. Now the skill rolls are all done the same way, which really simplifies the game. Now what you want to do is determine what the relevant skill is. So say you're trying to shoot something, you say, well, what's the skill of my shoot capability? And then you roll a d10 and then apply any modifiers, which we'll talk about later. So what you're trying to do is roll lower than your ability score. So you're always trying to roll low here, because if you roll equal to or above your ability score, after the modifiers are applied, then you have failed. Now, exception to that is a roll of 10 always fails, and a roll of 1 always succeeds. Thank you for joining us today at Miniature Wargaming Labs, and in part 3 of our series, coming up next, we'll discuss movement in games of Planet 28.